Hi, this is Dr. Simeon Roger, and welcome to Why You Need to See the World Around You as It Really Is. And this is part two. Now, suppose I were to put you in a car, give you an obscure address in a major city a few hours away, and tell you to drive there immediately with no GPS. How would you do it? So, no GPS, no cell phones, laptops, or tablets either. Nothing electronic. What will you rely on to find your destination? Recently, I drove to Toronto, which is 400 kilometers or 250 miles away, in a rental car, and was faced with this very problem. So good thing I had this with me. Absolutely. You need a map. In fact, there's no problem in life that can't be solved with the right map. In this video series, I'm supplying you with a map that can give you the life of infinite possibility and spiritual connection you want. And so often we think of mindset and spiritual life as quite different quests, yet to chase either without the other is a fool's errand, as you'll see. So last time, I gave you the first part of the map, the first leg of your journey. And that's where you stop seeing reality as separate from and outside yourself, and begin to realize that everything you see and experience is within your own consciousness. That's totally the opposite of what your culture has taught you since you were born, isn't it? That's right, our culture has taught us relentlessly how to interpret reality since we were born, and has done it so successfully that few people know that that interpretation is wrong. And yet every communication you get in your life just about reinforces that wrong interpretation. Almost everything that everybody around you says day in and day out reinforces it. Everything the media says reinforces it. And yet it is incorrect. And last time I shared this diagram with you. So on the left in the green, we have your mind or consciousness together with all of its content, including your emotions, your cultural conditioning that we've talked about, any traumas you've experienced. On the right in the blue, we have the so-called outside world. In other words, the people, events, sense objects that we experience in our day-to-day lives, that we interact with. And that's where I showed you that although almost everyone believes that the people, events, and sense objects they come into contact with every day are acting on them and limiting them from the outside, that's really not the case. And that the most reliable ancient spiritual traditions, as well as modern science, paint the opposite picture, where your mind actually creates your world and where the diagram actually looks more like this. With your consciousness and everything you experience, the world you experience within that consciousness, exactly the opposite of what your society has told you. Now, once you take this first step and start to make progress with it, you'll finally be able to take back control of all areas of your life, to drop your feelings of being victimized by the world around you, and to become completely fearless for the first time, as you see with your own eyes that you really do create your world. Today we go on to the second leg of the journey, and this is where we stop judging others, an enormous waste of energy coming from that wrong understanding of reality. Judgment and the anger it generates are poisonous to your system on every level, so why torture yourself for other people's mistakes? Makes no sense, right? So once you see that reality is within your consciousness, and that your consciousness is so vast, so spacious, there is no reason to judge, none whatsoever. And you realize pretty quickly that none of us were born with a manual for human life or a guidebook to the human nervous system. We popped out of the womb quite uninformed. And what's equally clear is our parents didn't have much of a map either, or the one they had wasn't too helpful. So when it comes to the 99.9% of humanity still caught up in the delusions of the Newtonian worldview, mistakes are inevitable. Moreover, despite your own progress in seeing reality as it is, you'll also see that all those years of programming from society haven't disappeared. So you'll still fall back into the emotional patterns you don't like, including judgment and anger. Now, there are specific methods to blow judgment and anger out of the water within a matter of days, but those are beyond the scope of this particular video. The point here is that leg number 2 of the journey is about developing huge compassion for others and for yourself for that matter, a compassion that arises automatically from seeing reality as it is. And this is where what will finally allow you to focus on the welfare of others and experience the enormous relief of dropping your self-concern. And a word about self-concern, this is not synonymous with selfishness. Selfish behavior is pretty obvious and pretty crass, easy to see. Most people do not behave in a selfish manner overtly, and that isn't the problem. The problem is that all of us, no matter how good we appear to be, are obsessively self-concerned, and this is what has kept us imprisoned all our lives. And there are no words to describe this dropping of self-concern and how amazing it really is. It's something that has to be experienced. Now, let me ask you another question. If you grew up in a different town or city from the one you currently live in, ask yourself, if I get into my car and drive to my childhood home, how many turns will it take to get me there? Now, if you happen to live in the same town or city you grew up in, just ask yourself the same question about maybe your, I don't know, a relative's home, grandparents' home, or some destination in another city. How many turns will it take to get me there? Once I get in the car, how many times do I have to turn left or right? How many times if you're in that town or city? And going to it, this is a really fun exercise. Ask yourself this question. So even though the house I grew up in is about 5 hours away, from the time I get on the highway here in Ottawa, yes, that's beautiful Ottawa, I can get there with a sequence of just one right turn, one left turn, and 3 more right turns. Now, what's the catch? Well, the catch obviously is if the only direction I had, if I didn't know personally the address I was going to, or how to find it, and if the only directions I received were get into your car, drive 5 hours, and make sure you make one right turn, one left turn, followed by 3 right turns, how helpful would that be? Where would that get me? God knows, just about anywhere. So the catch is, yeah, you've got to know where to turn, or you could end up just about anywhere. So again, there is no challenge in life that can't be solved by that right map, and that's what I'm here to give you. Now together, these first 2 turns I've shared with you on the map of reality are the beginning of your liberation from the confining world of the fear-based human ego, and your first steps into that world of infinite possibility. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you've enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe below, and see you next time for the 3rd critical leg of your journey across your inner ocean. I'm Dr. Simeon Roger, and we'll see you next time.